Thank you. We're going to look at the icon legend, and when we do updates in Blackboard, you'll see a little bit of a change in these icons. And just to refresh and go over what these are, you may see them from time to time, and I do get calls and someone will say, I have such and such in my grade center, and I'm not sure what that means, and I'm afraid to click on it. I don't want to delete any material that the student has submitted. So we thought it would be a good idea just to go over these and remind you what they all stand for. The first one that you're probably not going to see at AUM is the user unavailable. That would mean that the student was no longer in your class and could not see that content. The only time that you might see this is if you are a facilitator of a community and you make certain users, maybe they're no longer affiliated with that particular community for the term for some reason, and you just need to make them unavailable, then you would see that icon next to their name. But when the students at AUM are dropped from the course or withdraw from the university, then they are removed from Blackboard, and that takes about a 12-hour process. So when they make any change to their schedule with the registrar, it takes approximately 12 hours, usually not that long, but that's kind of a rule of thumb just so they can check back at that time. The second one that we see is the column not visible to the users, and LaKayla went over that and showed you how to hide a column. And some instructors like to hide the columns for the second half of the term. Maybe they have the columns showing up into the midterm and then don't have the rest of the term available or showing to the students until we reach the midterm. If you have an assignment that is for just a complete or no complete, maybe you have a syllabus quiz and you don't want to offer any points, but you want to ensure that they've completed the assignment, you can set it to, instead of a score or a grade, you can set it to be as complete or not complete. And when they do complete it, you'll see the little green check will appear in the grade center. The gold emblem with the exclamation point in it indicates that action is needed on the part of the instructor to grade the items. So this is something that you'll see often when you, probably more often than you wish, when you have a very large class and all of a sudden you see 50 of these little golden icons. And so that indicates that a response is needed by you. You need to go in and grade the items. The next is a small triangle in the corner, and I think that Tony has one here, and it's the override. When an instructor has to override a grade that Blackboard calculated, and this would be an instance, maybe a quiz, and there two of your answers might have been very similar, and so you wanted to award points for both A and B, but it was a multiple choice item, so Blackboard only graded B as correct. You could go in and override that score and award those points. The next one that you'll see here is a clock, a dial. It's kind of teal colored, and that means that an attempt is in progress. The students are actually working on that assignment at the moment. So it's best not to click on that during the time unless you know there's a problem. If a student has contacted you with an issue, I started taking my exam and I only got to question number 5 and I could not go any further, and I tried to submit and it wouldn't let me submit. This will show in their grade center, and if they contacted you, you could go in and reset that attempt. The next one is external grade, And that is a function that we really don't use at AUM. It is Blackboard designated it as a column that would be used to feed into the report card module. And that's, we don't send grades from Blackboard back to our database at this time. But you will see that external grade column with the little green arrow indicating it's at the top. It's right here. And you could use that as your final average. It could be a placeholder for your averages in your course. The next one that we're going to look at is the grade exempted for this user. And the next two you'll see are very similar. The lines go to the right in one and to the left in the other. It's kind of hard to delineate which is which. But the grade exempted for this user means that the um, grade is not going to show up in the student's record. If you exempt a grade, it will be ignored in all of the grade center calculations. And that might be used if you excused a student from a particular assignment. If they had an excused absence from the course and you didn't want to award a 0 for the assignment because you're going to just base their grade on the amount of work they've turned in and excuse them for not having that particular assignment. So that would be a time when you could exempt the grade, and that's what you would see right here in your grade center. The next one is error, and it means exactly what it says. There is an error with the assignment, the test, or it can be the discussion settings. That it's very rare that we see this. Uh, the probably you might see it if you've imported a test from a test bank, from a publisher's test bank that could be corrupt, and you would see that icon in the Grade Center. The next one is not participating, and that indicates that a student is not participating in a discussion or group assignment only because, not that they're not active in the group, but because they don't belong to that particular group. So you could show that indicative that LaKayla is not supposed to be in group 1, and therefore it shows she's not participating in group 1. So that kind of helps you keep the students and the groups in line through the term. And the last one is anonymous grading is enabled. And that allows you to grade without showing the students' names. And you do have to indicate that when you create the assignment. As LaKayla went through earlier, those grading options, you could select grade anonymously. It does have to be done on the front end so that it will allow you to do that when the assignments are submitted. The next item that we want to look at is using a rubric to grade. And our Planet paper has a rubric associated with it. And if we look at the edit column information, you'll see when this assignment was built, the rubric was added here and selected that the rubric would be shown to the students upon their submission, and it would show them the scores in each category. So you have some options there when you're grading with a rubric. The rubrics help the instructors share the expectations and evaluate the students' work. And for me, I'd like to think that it keeps me more objective as I grade. I'm a very different person when I'm grading paper number 1, 2, and 3 than I am when I'm grading paper number 40, 41, and 42, especially in one sitting. So this keeps me as an instructor more aligned, avoiding bias, avoiding the fact that I'm tired or my environment is hot or the dog is barking or a multiple of things. Kind of keeps me on track. So I love to have rubrics with my attached to my assignments. And in Blackboard, a rubric can be added to any of the assignments you create. Essay and short answer test questions can also have a rubric. Blogs, journals, wikis, and your discussion board can have a rubric associated with them. So to grade, we're going to look at Tony's paper. I want to grade the attempt. Open the rubric. And here you'll see the criteria that you've selected. And you simply click on the area that you'd like to use for grading. So we're going to go right down the middle. You see here that it gives you the score. If I save the rubric, it will put the grade automatically into Blackboard as the into the grade center for Tony. So it's very easy for you to create the rubric, add it to your assignment, and then grade with it. And you can be as precise as you like. You can have more than 3 of the criteria, and that way the students know what the instructor is expecting for the assignment, and they can work to meet those expectations and not go down a rabbit hole in another way. They know that they need to develop their ideas, have that purpose, organize well. And I found a site. It is a subscription site, but you can get to it's a rubric repository, and I've asked Rachel to share that in the chat for you. And it is open source enough so that you can have ideas, and it will give you templates, and it's broken down by like grad. It's very specific: grad, undergrad. It also has different assignments and different disciplines. So if you have economics is and then you have a research paper in economics, you can look at the rubrics that have been created there. So as LaKayla said, there are videos in SharePoint that cover rubrics. And remember under your help in all of your Blackboard courses over here on course management, the Blackboard help for instructors has videos on the rubrics. It has videos on almost every single subject. So if you're working at 3 o'clock in the morning and your friendly instructional designer just happens to not be available, because sometimes we do sleep, that's a requirement. But if we're not available and you have a quick question, zoom over to this. It's a great resource, and like I said, it's available in every course. So it doesn't matter where you're working, click on that help and it'll take you here to answer. You can do a quick search and look at rubrics, and then and it's very user friendly. So I will go back to LaKayla and let her finish the overview of the Grade Center.